BodyBags, where horror lies.
Hey, I'm Sam. I'm your thirsty guy for BodyBags, and this week is 1982. Nice year. Probably one of the best years in general of movies, right? You got E.T., you got The Thing, you got there's a lot of movies that came out in 1982 that are pretty good, including my movie, which is an anthology with 5 terrifying stories that'll make you want to cry yourself to sleep. I got Creepshow. A classic, a banger. We love it. Or, I love it, and you will too. So, there's kind of the subplot that goes, that's like the beginning and then the end of this, but it's basically 5 stories. You got Father's Day, the lonesome death of Jordy Nelson. I don't think his name was Jordy Nelson, but it was like the lonesome death of blah blah blah. You got the crate. You got and then you got 2 more. I forget the names of them, what those stories were called, but it's the one's the cockroach one, and then the other one's the buried in sand one. Yeah. And like it's a nice cast. I don't know if these guys were like big at the time, but like overall they ended up being like really big. So like Hal Holbrook, he was pretty big then. Adrian Barbe, I don't know. She was in The Fog. She was kind of big at the time, and then, you know, still is relatively, yeah. Ted Danson, Leslie Nielsen, Ed Harris, you know, all those guys. Even Stephen King's in this movie. All of the stories are pretty nice. Oh, I'm talking about the cast. Wait a minute, go back. My guy, Tom Atkins. My guy Tom Atkins is in this movie. A banger of a guy. Let's go. Well, it's too bad, I guess, what happens to him. The only thing I guess I don't like, I mean, like, alright, before I go there, I guess, just everything about this movie, all the stories are really nice stories, are really just nice stuff in general. I mean, like, whether it's a really nice kind of story that maybe would be interesting if it was a longer movie with some kind of, like, flashbacks to the past, kind of like, The Crate. I've had some ideas, if that was ever a movie, how that could go. And perhaps it could, you know, I'm not gonna go into detail. It's just, you know, you have like shorts in there that you have stories in there that could become like a movie, like an actual movie. Or you have stories that have really like interesting kind of lessons. So, for example, the lonesome death of Jordy Nelson. That's probably not his name, but I'm just saying that's like the name I'm giving him because he looks like a Jordy Nelson or Neeson kind of thing. He's basically this redneck, not really redneck, but he's living out in the country. And there's this meteor that crashes next to his house. He goes over to investigate it, and he's like, "Hey, I can make a lot of money with this." He pours water over it because it's pretty hot and he doesn't want to, you know, burn his hands or whatever. Or he dumps it. No, he puts water over it. And it ends up breaking, and there's this liquid inside of it that, you know, leaves, and you end up finding out that this liquid is turning everything green, like spreading, like growing. It's like it's not stopping, right? He ends up touching the meteor to like put it in a bucket, so it's like, well, I got it. And then it ends up starting to grow in his hand. And the idea of the story is that it's not stopping, it's gonna keep on growing, and water makes it grow so much more faster. By the end of the story, he's completely covered, and he unfortunately ends up killing himself. But the idea of it is that he was too scared to go to a doctor, to go ask anyone help, because his mental process was that, well, if I go to the doctor, they're just gonna say that they're gonna have to cut my hand off, and they're gonna use some really big saw or whatever to cut it off. And he was really scared to go, fix his problem, or at least try to fix his problem. Maybe in the end of the day, it wouldn't have mattered because, X, Y, Z. But, if you ever have a problem, you need to go, not be scared about it. You gotta go, talk to someone about it. Try to get some help. Because more likely than not, you won't be able to get it on your own. But for the most part, I mean, they're just stories, right? Stories with subconscious meanings, I guess. Or maybe I'm looking too deep into it. I really like the stories, okay? The only one, I guess, that I don't like, and it's not that I don't like it, it's just, I don't know, it was kind of boring to me, was the cockroach one. It's basically this millionaire who has, this phobia, or, hates, it's I guess it's a phobia of insects, cockroaches and whatnot, and he has a spray, and every time he sees a cockroach, he's like, I gotta kill him, and then towards the end of the show, end of the short, there's an army of cockroaches in his apartment. I think it's an apartment, and it's ugh, that might be too much to handle there. But I guess if there was anything I didn't like about Creepshow, it's probably the story that's before all the stories start, the premise and ending story. It's the idea of the movie is that all these tales that we're watching are in this comic book that this kid had that the dad got rid of because he didn't want the kid to read the horror stories, right? And then the kid ends up really hating him and whatnot. I'm gonna go super deep into spoilers, so if you don't want me to spoil, I'm sure this is out somewhere, whether you could watch it, and if it's not, go find it somewhere. It's very nice to have. It's a really nice thing to have. This is a really nice version to have. Unfortunately, I don't have it. This is my father's. But I do have a King of Horror collection. It has 8 movies. It's basically Stephen King related movies, or based off his books. Creepshow's on it because he helped make Creepshow. So let's go. But in the end of the day, I'm spoiling now. So the kid ends up buying a voodoo doll from the comic book. Comic books, you're reading and then there ends up being an ad break, right? It's a page of ads and whatnot, and the voodoo doll is an ad on it, and so he gets the voodoo doll and he uses it on his dad and basically hurts his dad. And it's I didn't like it because the dad, he was just looking out for the kid. Didn't want the kid to go and watch horror stuff because, sometimes kids aren't really meant to watch that stuff. Or at least, not the worst of the worst kind of thing, And back then in the 50s, horror movies, the most that you were gonna get, if you wanted something extreme, would have been some Italian movies. Because over in America, all the, or at least the majority of the movies were either gothic, or gothic horror, or science fiction horror. In which, not really the worst thing ever to watch, but, maybe back then, they were I don't want my kids to see this because, it was different back then, right? They didn't have a ton of gore. It was, kind of rare back then if there was a movie with gore in it. But then again, it was more likely an Italian movie if there was. So I guess I didn't really like that, to be honest, because the dad was just looking out for the kid. And then the kid not really knowing any better, probably not getting the proper punishment he should be getting, honestly. Really entitled kid. Yeah, he really looks like a kid nowadays, probably, if the kid had a phone and just everything, and then all of a sudden didn't have that anymore and didn't understand why, and was I hate you now, or whatever. Just make sure they don't buy a voodoo doll. But overall, the stories in Creepshow, I would say, are like really nice, interesting stories, and definitely worth a watch. And I think if you give it a chance, you'll like it too. Unless you already seen it, in which case then you'll be like, yeah, it's the best thing ever, or at least one of the best things ever. I suppose this is probably, in my opinion, I haven't really seen much anthology movies, but I wouldn't be, like I say, I wouldn't be surprised. This is probably the best one, but in the same time, I've only seen, like, this one other, maybe, and a kill count of, one. So I haven't really had much experience with, anthology movies, but this was a really nice one. So, I'm Sam. I'm your Thursday Kite for BodyBags for 1982 theme week, or year week. Oh my god. I chose Creepshow. It was made in 1982, so obviously I'm gonna choose Creepshow. And if I had to rate this movie right now, I think I would give it like, I'd probably give it like a 7.8. You know, or like, you know, rounding up, I guess I give it an 8. It would have been much higher if that story was like better or whatever. But, you know, unfortunately that is what it is. Also, I might be wrong about this. Yeah, Tom Savini's in this movie. Yeah, he's in the movie, and he also helped work on the movie. But yeah, like, he's actually in the movie for like 5 seconds, so that was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah. I'm Sam. I'm your Thursday guy for BodyBags. I chose this movie, Creepshow, and gave it an 8 out of 10. Really nice movie, definitely worth a watch at least once. You know, if you're not really big on anthology movies, at least once. And yeah, I guess I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.